With Coach Wilcox. As always, if you could let us know in the chat that you have a question, we'll go ahead and get started with Jeff Ferrato from Cal Sports Report.
Hey, good morning, Justin. Thanks for taking some time to talk with us. Wonder if you could take us through your wild weekend a little bit. Did you have any idea when you got up Saturday morning that that game would not happen? And then were you confident once the Pac-12 announced the Arizona game? Did you have any confidence that that game would actually happen?
Yeah, so I'll answer the first one. Waking up Saturday morning, we were alerted, probably 7 or so, that one of the players wasn't feeling well. A player who had tested negative twice the day before, so they were going to run some tests again on Saturday morning, and those tests would come back, kind of in that late morning hour. So we went about our morning routine and had our grab and go breakfast. And as we prepared to head to the stadium, we were notified that the test had come back and it was positive, and that's when the contact tracing started. And there's a process involving our doctors, public health officials, and they were on the phone for a while talking through the contact tracing. And ultimately, I was informed of the people who would be contact traced just prior to us departing for the stadium. And that at that point, it put us in a position that we would not be able to play.
And then after the announcement for the games this coming weekend, when you heard that they'd made the announcement, did you already have suspicion that you would not be able to play that game?
Yeah, there was some hope that we were going to retest the individual or individuals who weren't feeling well to see if there was a different outcome on the test, just to confirm what was happening. And at that point, it was confirmed, and then that meant that our contact tracing would again result in a roster that wouldn't be capable of playing. So we were still hopeful. And then I think we also had heard on Sunday that our potential opponent was having some of the same issues.
If I could follow up just with what's your reaction to the craziness? I mean, the whole season has been crazy, but this weekend was a whirlwind for you guys, and you fly all the way up to Washington, and then you just keep getting the rug yanked out from underneath you. What was your reaction, and how did your players deal with it?
It's probably like you would expect. It's disappointing. It's confusing. It's frustrating. There's also a sense of this is, the way 2020 has gone and the season has gone and COVID sets the rules. There's just, uncontrollable factors. And so I think people understand that. It doesn't make it maybe less frustrating at times, but, I think the players, we've dealt with some of these kind of changes prior, and it just happened to be right before the game. And when you're kind of mentally prepared to get on and go compete, and it's just the way it's gone. I mean, there's really not a lot to say. You try to keep them with a positive mindset and keep some perspective on things. I'm not saying that's easy to do, but that's what we try to do.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Rusty Simmons from the Chronicle.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to follow up on Jeff's first question there. You mentioned a player or players not feeling well. How are they doing now?
Yeah, he's the one player is feeling better, and we're hopeful that he's past the worst of it and doing fine. And again, everybody else so far, we're doing well in that regard. But again, the way this has gone, you're always cautiously optimistic of what today and tomorrow might bring, and looking too far down the road is pretty difficult, as we've all come to find out.
And this may be a little unfair since you haven't had a bunch of time to reflect, but how do you think about this season? How do you think in the future you'll look back on 2020?
Well, the way that the players have kind of managed this season has, I think, garnered all of our respect. I mean, the way the guys have kind of come out and practiced hard, understanding that things are out of our control. The way that they've come into the stadium and, go to meetings outside and grab and go food and, no locker rooms and not everybody gets to practice at the same time. I mean, they just, for kind of that hand that was dealt, they've done a really good job. And I think, we've learned some lessons in terms of, trying to make the most out of whatever circumstance we might be put in. Those are valuable lessons. All of us would love for it to be, we're hopeful and looking forward to things getting better so we can get back to a little bit more of a normal operation. But I truly, myself and the rest of our coaches, appreciate our players and how they've managed it, and also thankful of the support we've got from our doctors and all the help to give us an opportunity to play the 4 games we got to play.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, we'll move to Trace Travers from Rivals.
Yeah, I wanted to expand on what Rusty asked there. You said at the beginning of the season, everybody is going to have a role on this team, whether it's playing or otherwise. How do you feel like everybody kind of got into their role this year?
I think the best they could. And again, I mentioned, not having everybody at practice, for example. We had kind of a developmental squad that would come in after, and it wasn't ideal for those guys. We would love to have had more opportunities to coach them and get them in team situations or even 7-on-7. We couldn't quite do that, and also prepare to play the game. So I feel for those guys. As I mentioned, we're hopeful that won't be the norm, that we'll be able to practice as a full team as soon as spring, if things are better. And I thought that, again, the guys did the best they could in some unique circumstances. And again, talking about checking in and testing and outdoor meetings and getting dressed on the practice field and grab and go food. You didn't have a lot of that, time together. The locker room wasn't an option. So I thought they did the best they absolutely could, and with really minimal to no complaining, which is pretty impressive for a group of 18 to 22-year-old guys, because I know how all of us adults feel at times about some of these things. And again, trying to keep some perspective on this. And football is extremely important. It's what we do. It's coaches and players. It's what we do. We take a ton of pride in it. But also having a moment to step back and say, all right, healthy, doing okay. And there's a lot of people that are struggling out there. So we're looking forward to things improving so we get back to a normal operation. But again, I'm just proud of the way the guys have managed it.
And to kind of shift to another topic, I think you mentioned on the radio show last week about having to re-recruit some of the seniors. How is that process going? And do you expect anyone back for another year?
Yeah, I don't know if re-recruit is a great term. If I use that, I don't know if I meant it that way. I would say, we're providing guidance for them. They got some decisions that they're actively making now. Some have already made those decisions, some have not, based on what their career holds for them. And so we're not, the roster has not been finalized for spring. Again, guys are making decisions based on their football careers, their academic careers, and we're helping them with that process, providing information, and then we'll support them in their decision. But that's ongoing, Trace. They're digesting kind of what's happened here in the last few days, and there's a lot to work through there. It's a circumstance like no other. There's never been this where seniors have a decision to make whether they come back or not. And it's not just the NFL, it's there's other factors for some guys. So anyway, we're working through it currently.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to John Branch from the New York Times.
Hey, Justin. You guys are kind of the guinea pigs, football going first into this world. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on what you guys could have done differently. I know you had some bad luck, and I know you guys were maybe sort of restricted because you're in Berkeley with tighter restrictions in some places. But I wonder if you have any thoughts on what you guys could have done differently and lessons that maybe the other sports teams there at Cal might take from it to keep themselves from being able to play a fuller season than you guys did.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a little bit like a football game where as soon as it's over, you look back and say, okay, what could we have done differently or better to improve our chances of success? And I would hope that we do that. I've done it based on our fall practices, certainly every game that we experience is what could we have done better? I think everybody's making the best decisions they can with the information they have. But I would think how to get some clarity on contact tracing. What is the spacing that necessary for meetings, interactions, practice? How do we measure that? And I know that our institution's been really proactive in trying to get those answers. There are some questions that the institution has or we have, and probably the health professionals that we don't quite know the answers to. And that's where you try to have some patience when there aren't answers. But I think the contact tracing piece is a big part of it if you're going to continue to move forward in competitive sport, and how that's going to be interpreted and how should it be interpreted. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a doctor. I shouldn't be consulted on how it should happen. I think every team would be well served to know what those parameters are so you can prepare the best.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like with the contact tracing, that seemed to be the thing that tripped you guys up more than anything else. And I think the first game you guys had canceled was the same week that Clemson had their quarterback sidelined with one case. But meanwhile, they went ahead and played, and it was only one person that was sidelined. You guys lost an entire position group. And I don't know if there's logistical ways to split up position groups. If you're a different team there at Cal, where you can say, hey, we can't let our entire position group hang out together. I mean, are these things even realistic to really do?
Yeah. And so again, I think it's getting clarity from the health professionals on what would constitute a contact trace. And I think maybe the confusing and a bit of the frustrating part is it's not consistent throughout the state or certainly the country. And that's why you see the differences. And so until there's uniformity in how that's done, you're going to see different teams play and other teams not with the same number of cases, for example. And I don't, I'm not saying I know what the right answer is, but I know that it's not uniform on how that's done. So in transparency, we've had really some minimal cases compared to a lot of folks. It's just, I think the contact tracing was an issue for us. And that's where I think just more clarity on how that can be done better and if it can be done better. From our point of view, our institution's point of view. And again, people are asking all these questions. I just don't know that the answers are there or readily available. So you're going to see it differently throughout the country. That's just what it is right now.
And the other question I have for you is a big picture question. And I realize it sounds kind of cynical, but I think it's the question that kind of is hanging out there. And that is, was this worth it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I understand why you ask. For any and all of us, yes, it was. Certainly we want to protect people's health. I mean, first and foremost. But if it was deemed healthy by the people that would make that decision, then we want to compete. People, that's what we do. Again, the players want to play. They want to compete. They want to be a part of a team. They want that engagement as best we could give it to them in a time like this. The chance to go practice and play. I mean, I think I maybe told this group the first day we're able to have a practice in, I guess that was October. I remember Nico Remigio walking up. It's like, this is the most normal I've felt in months. And so I think, people yearn for that, and not just the games. I mean, obviously we love playing the games and going out and testing ourselves, but the chance to be around our teammates. And so, it was, and it wasn't ideal how it all went, but I think it's better than nothing.
Good. Hey, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to David Bush from Barron Center.
Excuse me. Hi, Coach. Have you imposed, or has anybody imposed a deadline as to when you'd like the seniors to make a decision? Or you have a date in mind when you need to know whether they're in or out?
Yeah, I would imagine, David, we haven't given them a specific day. We're kind of letting them digest all that's happened. This kind of early January sometime would be probably most appropriate. And I think a lot of it's going to become clear to them here as they, take some time for themselves, assess their situation. We'll provide them with information on, whatever we can help them with, about their careers and so forth. But I would imagine early January is a natural time frame.
And to switch topics, a football question: how would you assess Chase's performance in the 4 games? Did he improve? What's your overall critique?
Yeah, I think he's continuing to improve. Again, Chase really grasping a new offense, and I thought throughout the year really looked more and more comfortable, and that's to be expected, as we all know. But I thought even the last game he played, the Oregon game, he was in command of the huddle, knowing what we were trying to accomplish. Did a really good job on the sideline. So I think he can be better, and I think he would tell you the same. But we would expect him to continue to grow as a quarterback.
Thanks.
Then we'll go back to Jeff Ferrato from Cal Sports Report.
Yeah, a couple of things, Justin. In your comments earlier, you seem to indicate that some of your seniors already have decided. Are you able to tell us about any of them who have said that either they will be coming back or they definitely plan to move on?
I think we're going to wait on that to allow them their time and space to make those announcements on their terms. And as I mentioned, I would early January, if we haven't heard something, we'll confirm those when the time is right. I just would rather let them do that for now.
And it's pretty quickly after the season's over, earlier than even you thought, but have you figured out a timetable for spring ball, and will it be impacted by maybe waiting a little longer this year, hoping that, the landscape is a little cleaner and better for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. And there's a few different ways to look at it. Ideally for us, we would be in favor of an early spring ball if we could practice with our entire team. And there's reasons that we would like an early spring ball. Our off-season strength and conditioning program is incredibly important to us. We were limited in significantly this past off-season, and we are really committed to doing our best to give our guys the best chance to physically develop. And so we are in favor of an early spring ball, and that is what is on the books. But as we know, COVID will really, and the kind of the situation locally that we're in with public health and those things could and have, change things. So we'll be fluid. We know what time of day we're practicing, and we have some dates set in mind, and we're ready to adjust if needed. So those will be made as we go.
And how excited are you for tomorrow? Just sort of move back into football mode with signing day, and it looks like you have a nice class coming in. Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's been great spending the last couple weeks here on our in-home visits, and we're going to finish those up tonight. And we have a signing day tomorrow, which is a big day for us, and it's a big day for the recruits. So it'll be a little bit of a change of pace, and we're trying to make it as normal as we can for them, and it should be a really exciting time. And we got some really good players that are planning on signing with us tomorrow, so it'll be a celebration for us and them as we kind of add this new group to our roster.
It's a bit of a smallish class right now, it looks like. Do you expect to add some more between now and then?
Then being tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
There is maybe one, maybe two. We feel pretty confident kind of where the class is right now and how that impacts the roster, and also what could be coming, in winter, spring, next fall, or summer and next fall. So we're pretty good where we're at right now, but there's always a possibility of one or two. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go back to Rusty Simmons from the Chronicle.
Coach, you had an interesting discussion with Trace last week in talking about some of the cool things you guys are doing virtually in recruiting. But I also wondered about the challenges of identifying and kind of looking at talent. What are the challenges when you can't be there in person to see guys play?
Well, really twofold this year. The challenge of not seeing them in person, which we always like to do, whether that's a game that we're able to go watch, or if they're in our camp. That's always a really critical piece of the recruiting process. Unfortunately, this year, they didn't play and we didn't have them in camp. We felt really fortunate to have seen a lot of them a year ago. They were on our campus, so we at least got to see them face to face. So we were fortunate in that regard. But I think everybody's dealing with it because there's just, a lot of the high schools haven't played, and that's just the way it is this year. So you're going off of junior evals. But as I mentioned, we're confident in the group that we're signing based on all the information that we were able to get in the past year.
And then I was going to ask about the NCAA giving everybody another year, or not counting this year against eligibility. Have you gotten any more clarity on how you're supposed to get back to 85 a year from now? I don't know. It sounds like next year you can go above, but then getting back down to that number. Is there any instruction on how to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question that comes up a lot. And as of now, it's a 1 year, and we have in our signing class, we're counting on that, how we approach recruiting moving forward. It'll be, how many seniors come back will certainly, that plays into it. And then the guys that are underclassmen in our program, whether they will exercise the extra year or not is always something that will be we would only know down the road. So it's not completely clear on how many next year, for example, we would have that are truly seniors. We kind of have our bonus seniors that's in this class, and then moving forward, it's how many people will exercise that extra year eligibility, and we don't know the answer to that yet. So we've accounted for it in our signing class and are prepared to be flexible moving forward because we're going to have to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go back to Trace Travers with Rivals.
Well, Rusty and Jeff stole my good questions, so I'll ask a fun one. I heard after you guys had the game canceled on Saturday, some of your guys found a hill and went sledding. How good was it for some of those guys to, I guess, blow off some steam after, you get built up for a game and then it kind of comes crashing back down? Yeah,
the initial shock of getting, the news, everybody is, as you can imagine, is disappointed and frustrated. And then one of the things I love about the guys is they're like, okay, well, there's not a lot we can do about that. So a couple of them walked across the street to the, what was it? There was a kind of a department store there in the parking lot next to the UI in Moscow. Got a couple sleds. There was a few snowball fights. There was a snowman built, really kind of a premium level snowman that was built in the courtyard there. So, they made the most of it, and, we got up some good food to eat, and then we made our way home.
How many of those guys would you say had never seen snow before?
Quite a few. Heard that quite a bit as we landed, and they were, again, excited to play in that environment. It was nice. It was really nice out. It was a little cooler than here, but snow was on the ground, and they were excited for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Jake Curtis, Cal Sports Report.
Yeah, a football question. You only played 4 games. Expectations were high this year. You were picked to finish second. How would you assess how you guys performed the results of this season?
Well, our record represents our performance. I think we had opportunities in 2 of those games if we would have played a little bit cleaner and a couple plays here or there where our record would be different. So I think I'm still very optimistic about our team and the players on our team and what we're capable of doing. But, we all own the record. We understand there's circumstances throughout the season, but ultimately we had a chance in 2 of those games to make kind of some just a couple routine plays that change the outcome. So we have to own that and coach it better. And that's my job. And then ultimately we got to put our players in a position and they have to go out and execute it better.
Jim McGill, Bear Insider.
Hey, Justin, in terms of COVID, were there essentially just 3 asymptomatic COVID cases this whole season?
We had a very limited number of positive cases. The department will handle all the stats. I'll let the department handle that. We had a limited number of cases. And again, probably due to the protocols and the guys following directions and trying to do what people are asking them to do. But I don't know the stats throughout the country. I've heard, like you all have, certain teams here and there throughout the conference and the country and the numbers, but I'm not going to comment on the stats. That's the department's job.
Getting back to performance, how pleased were you with the growth of the offensive line? Last year, obviously, you were super thin, and this year it seems like some of that young depth started to bloom, and you got some guys back who were injured last year too.
Yep, and due to some of the issues we faced with COVID and those challenges, going in, I guess, Thursday of the Oregon State, or maybe Friday of the Oregon State game, bunch of new faces. We're getting significant reps in that game. And then during the game, Mike Safell went down and, like Brian Driscoll went in, and I thought they did a heck of a job for really having minimal game, if any, game reps throughout that group, and then came back the next week against Stanford and put in a winning effort. At that position, unfortunately, we didn't quite get it done on the scoreboard, but I was really proud of that group and the step forward that they took as a unit. And, looking forward to those guys continuing to grow physically and as, players to provide more depth and competition at that spot.
And on defense, you obviously lost some key players in Evan and Ashton and Jalen. And then you had very limited practice time. But outside of that UCLA game, it seemed like the D was really making huge strides. Can you talk a little bit about their progress too?
Yeah, I think same thing. I mean, I thought they got better and better each week. The more they kind of got to play together and get those repetitions, and the D line took a hit with obviously the departure of Luke and then a couple injuries early in the season, and we ended up being pretty thin there. But I thought those guys battled like crazy. I thought Brett Johnson continues to improve, going to be a dang good player. I thought J.H. Tevis did a really nice job, kind of in his first year or games of significant action. Zionde, as we know, was a steady guy for us and playing through some bumps and bruises. The linebacking core, I thought, Mo Iosefa and Tattersall had some good moments. Cam Good was playing his best football that he's played here. Braxton Croto continues to improve. Coyne. And in the back end, Cam Bynum is as heck of a football player, as we all know. And, just it seems like we were so fortunate to have Cam for the time we did, because he's just a talented guy in every game. You know what you're getting. And then you had some of those newer guys, and Elijah moving to safety and really playing better and better throughout the season. And Craig Woodson showing up, and Josh Drayden, I think, is continuing to improve. So, I thought that was good to see. We just need to get more bodies to play in a game on defense. We were just pretty thin throughout the last couple games of 3 games, I guess, where we didn't have a ton of people playing. So we just got to develop more depth on defense.
And last question, with regard to the seniors that could potentially come back for the extra year. How big a role has your certification, that the additional 3 or so programs made in that consideration on their part?
It is a big deal. I would say that the certificate program gives another opportunity to potential graduate, our own players who are graduating and want to pursue graduate work, and then potential grad transfers, not to mention GAs, people that work in our offices. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Thanks.
Jeff Frada?
Yeah, Justin, last year, I remember at the news conference after the Red Box Bowl, there was just quite a bit of excitement about moving forward. And it seemed like you came out of last year with a ton of momentum. And I think that you felt that on the outside of the program, and I'm assuming you did on the inside. Is there any momentum here? And what do you expect the feeling to be going forward? And how do you expect your team to be next year?
Well, we expect to have a good team. I think we got a really good team. And I understand, the optics and wins and losses and finishing the bowl game with a win. But the energy from our players and seeing how they've worked through this and seeing what we're capable of doing, I think we have extremely high expectations. Now, how this season impacts people outside of our building, I don't know. And we don't really spend, a ton of energy or any energy on that. We understand that's part of our what we do as players and coaches, but we have extremely high expectations for us as coaches and players in our program. And I know that they understand what we're capable of doing. And it's a matter of, having an unbelievable off season, a great spring ball, getting into summer workouts, developing our bodies, and getting a chance to go practice and be together throughout, sooner rather than later. And again, some of those things are out of our control, but again, I can't reiterate enough that the expectations in the building are extremely high.
And how much, or how do those expectations in your own mind potentially change depending on what the seniors decide in terms of coming back or not? Each of those guys have decisions to make, and we would love to have those guys with us. But I also understand it's, everybody's circumstance is a little bit different, and not everybody's in the same boat. We have a couple 4th-year seniors and we have 6-year seniors. We have guys that, their graduation clocks are different. So it's just no 2 of them are the same. And ultimately we're going to do what's, best for them and support them. But our role is to provide information for them, what they can do, what their prospects are, potentially in the professional level, and also our plan for them and their development here as a player and person. So that's what we provide them, and then they'll make their own decision. Thanks.
Okay, time for a couple more. We got David Bush from Bear Insider.
Yeah, Justin, I know that opportunities could still open up around the country, so things could change. But at this point, do you expect your coaching staff back for next year?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I've been in this long enough, and you have too, to see that there are opportunities that come up, and people have decisions to make for themselves and their families. But we have a really strong unit as a coaching staff, and it's good when other people want to, talk to your coaches, because the expertise they have, how they treat people, their character. So we're fortunate to have a supportive administration, and my job is here to try and make it really hard for people to leave. So I feel really good about our staff. We've got excellent coaches and people, and looking forward to them being here as long as possible.
Thanks.
Okay, Rusty Simmons from the Chronicle.
Yeah, Coach, I was talking to Tom Luganbill yesterday, and he didn't even know how to define the area of support staff yet. I think he called it internet and graphics. But just wondering how important those folks have been to you this year, and how much do you think that will carry over into the future, you guys using that kind of stuff in recruiting and everything you do?
Might be the number one thing that we have, out of necessity, improved upon, is this, the virtual recruiting environment. And we've had, we got some people here, you know, Marshall and Benji, Nick Mitchell, Normie, like there's some guys that are really pushing the envelope and helping us who are limited in our tech. So it's been great. And just the virtual visits, the interactions with the recruits and their families via Zoom, and some of the things we can do with them. And that's something we'll continue to do regardless of our, you know, public health orders. And it's something I think that's maybe the number one thing that we look at and say, man, that's something we've gotten better at and we would continue to use, because a lot of it, you know, meetings with our players virtually, virtual team meetings, as soon as we are able to come back, we're going to do those in person, because we still think those are the best way to do it. So the virtual recruiting part, though, could be a really useful tool moving forward, regardless of the situation with COVID.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, anybody else with the final question? I'll give you a couple seconds here if you do. Okay, seeing none, I know we have Coach again tomorrow, so we'll